Today we're going to be trying to find what we, collectively we, think is the best cycling brand in the world. Okay, this is an ambitious project, and when I say we, I really want this to be a collaborative thing, because the last few videos that we've done in this let's make as much cycling content as we can while the World Cup is on, the comments that you've been adding has been way more interesting than what I've been saying. They honestly have. So if all I've done is spark the discussion, all the learning, all the really insightful stuff is down there. And I hope this video is going to be just the same. So don't be shy, don't hold back. If you've got something to say, get it said. Now, this is probably the number one question that we get asked. And I'm pretty sure it's the same on the Hambini Peak Talk channel, is what do you recommend? What is your advice? What can you say is, just for God's sake, just go and buy that? And it's way harder than that. So in this video, I'm going to try and we're going to try and do it. We're going to try and do it. I've put together a little idea, which I think collectively we can get there. Let me show you what I mean. So I've put together the risk-reward matrix, classic matrix, but I think we can start putting bike brands onto this and collectively get to that answer that we're looking for. Now, you might have come across something like this before. So if you are low risk, high reward, that is the magical, mythical unicorn. Absolutely, probably does not exist. We'd like to think it does, but if we start chasing that, we're only going to end up disappointed. On the other side, the very, very high risk for very low reward is things like taking drugs. Like, the whole world tells you it's an absolutely stupid idea and people do it anyway, and you just think, idiots, we tried to warn you, you did it anyway, you get everything you deserve. Is that sort of down there? Why risk for such low reward? That's the idea. So on the scales that we're most interested in is like this. So high risk, high reward would be something like gambling. And yes, you can win big, but most likely that you're not, and the house is going to win. And if you go into trying to buy a bike thinking that you're going to beat the house, that you're going to get more bang for your buck, you're probably not. So I'm putting it up there as gambling as being the thing. Just go big red flag. If you go chasing that, you're probably going to end up in a pickle. Down at the other side is this guy. This is a pair of Marks and Spencer's underwear. Now, Marks and Spencer's is a brand here in the UK. In fact, let me show you, because we'll come on to Scott Bikes in a second. This is Marks and Spencer's, and ironically, they're actually sponsoring the English football team. I didn't know that at the time. And they are a department store that mostly sells very, very sensible, well-priced clothing, famous for being really, really comfortable underwear. But it's not the sort of underwear that's going to get you very far in life, if you know what I mean. So I thought this was the best example of low risk and low reward, right down here. Okay, with this in mind, let's try and put some criteria on this. So the reward scale, what would be a good reward? First off, let's just try and keep this really simple. Does your bike ride as it was advertised? You did your research, you read the website, you went and spoke to a sales assistant, and is the bike that you've got the bike that you expected? You know, that's the reward that you're looking for. You know, paid my money, I took my choice, I got what I wanted. And then above that, do you really enjoy your bike, and not just, you know, riding it, but do you enjoy like looking at it? Do you feel proud to own it? Is it something that just puts a smile on your face every time you sort of walk past it? You're like, yeah, that's mine. That's the sort of thing that I think goes up into that reward scale. And then the thing that I think is really, really important is the customer service and the after-sales support. And this is where reviewers really don't get the chance to challenge and test this, but us as bike shops, we do. And this is things like, let's say you've broken a mech hanger, can you get a new one easily? If you've lost the little frame bung where the rear brake hose exits, you know, can you get a new one sent to you? Is it stupid proprietary headset bearings that you can only buy from a certain place and that sort of thing? Or what if something didn't arrive correct and you had to get it fixed, like the Canyon video that we did? How was that after sales support? This is all the sort of things. Sometimes you have to fight and fight and fight, and other times you can pick up the phone and go, oh yeah, I'm really sorry about that, here you go, I'll send out the new one to you, here's a voucher, go and get it fixed at your local bike shop. You know, what was that experience like? Okay, the risk scale then is, was it expensive? I know that this is in context, everyone's got their own budget, but even if you can afford it, that disposable income is there, you still have the risk that you're taking with the depreciation, if that's important to you, the desirability, is it going to get nicked? Do you need to insure it? If something breaks, can you afford it? You know, let's say you take your bike and it breaks and there's no way of getting it repaired. How much of a risk was that to you? And if it did break or need repairing, what was that process like? Did the brand help you out with anything? You know, that's the sort of thing we're looking for. And then finally, does it creak, squeak, rub, or rattle? Which is what, you know, our channel, the Hambini channel, have all been trying to get into, is poor manufacturing tolerances, poor choices of components. It's all going to lead to diminishing your enjoyment of your bike, because every time you turn a pedal, you're going to hear a creak, your brakes are going to rub, or your Di2 junction box is going to rattle, or whatever. You know, is that what you're expecting not to happen, but actually does happen? Okay, hope that helps. We've got those 3 criteria. So here are some brands that I'm going to start the ball rolling with. So if you don't know these, this is Scott Bikes, Pinerelli Specialized, and under my head just here, this is Trek, and we have Yeti Cycles, Time Bikes, Bianchi. Yeah, I'm sorry to everyone that I upset about not pronouncing that correctly. It's an aluminium thing, I guess, but I have been put right by the actual owner of that bike, who is an Italian. It is Bianchi, so there we go. And Pivot Cycles, Cube, Cannondale, Giant, and Ridley. So I thought this is a really good collection of brands just to get the ball rolling. So let's see how we got on. Now what we're looking for is this green area, because if your brand goes in this area, I think it's punching above its weight. Like Rocky Balboa against Ivan Drago. It's the little guy wins. This is what we all want. You know, this is what we're trying to get to. Like, we just want to feel like we've got a little bit more for our money than we expected. We feel like we won. You know, we've made a really good choice. We've got a bargain. Whatever it is you know, that we want to be in this green area. And what we're all trying to avoid is being down here where we get there. Well, we tried to tell you, you know, brands like this have probably been featured over on the Hambini channel, and if you'd done your research deep enough, you probably would have discovered it and hopefully avoided buying anything in this area. But it does happen, sadly. So it's hard to get, you know, the opinions of people like us to enough people, really. So there we go. This is going to get us started. We're going to start with a few major brands and lay it down and see how many people I upset in the process. Okay, wish me luck. Here we go. Here is the brands I think need to sit on that red line, the benchmarks, if you like. This is where we go up or down from these key brands. And I'm going to start with Scott Bikes. I think Scott Bikes is a 5x5. It is absolutely slap bang in the middle. In fact, let me just show you their website, because I think Scott Bikes really gets the attention it deserves, because there's some really, really good stuff that they do. The Addict is a lovely lightweight bike for, you know, if you're into alpine climbing. It's fantastic. It's not too pretentious. It does a great job. I've never seen a bad one. The Foil is a rapid bike. The Plasma, if you're into triathlons at all, you will know that the Plasma bike. It is superb in side winds, and rapid bike. The Scott Speedster, I know so many people, myself included, whose probably first road bike was a Scott Speedster, and it got them going. They're just really, really well made bikes. Over in the mountain bike range, there is some really good stuff. The Spark, for instance, this is a rapid cross-country bike, and it rides so well. It rides better than most cross-country bikes does. It feels way more confident than you expect. The Scott Genius is a classic trail bike. It's so good. I don't like the switch mechanisms they put on some of their bikes sometimes, but other than that, the Scott Genius is a stunning bike. Ransom, they make some really good stuff, and I don't know why we overlook it so much. Okay, so that's why I think Scott bikes. There's nothing that's like too fancy in there. I think the prices are pretty reasonable. I just think it's a solid effort. Okay, going right down here, I've put Giant Bikes down here, and let me show you their website, and it'll hopefully make sense. So this is Giant. Now I think it is low risk, because when you buy a Giant, it's the biggest brand in the world, biggest cycling manufacturer in the world, and they're solid choice. You are going to get a bike that is going to work. It's probably going to have great after sales. It's going to do what it says on the tin. It's just, there's nothing in their range which really inspires me, excites me, that I think I want to own. I think it is the Marks and Spencer's underpants of a bike brand. It's a solid, reliable choice, and and then that's it. Okay, back to this. Up from Giant a little bit is Specialized. They've got some, mostly because of their S-Works range. The S-Works range is something a little bit special, and I think there's some really good stuff in there. They do get a bit bonkers, as you've seen in the previous video, but generally I think what Specialized doing is just that a little bit more desirable. There's some Specialized bikes out there that I would, I think that's a pretty tasty bike. Scott, Cannondale. Cannondale is one of my favourite brands, actually, because I'm a bike mechanic and I can afford for it to be a favourite brand, because they need a lot of tinkering and a lot of messing about to tolerate their quirks, but they are some of the best handling bikes out there. Their aluminium stuff has always been fantastic, right the way from the CAD 4 right the way up to the current CAD 13. They're absolutely brilliant aluminium bikes. It's a shame that they're not handmade in the USA anymore. I think the CAD 9 was the last one that they did, but the CAD 10 is still fantastic. They innovate like crazy. The lefty fork is a superb fork, but then you just have to put up with its quirks. So it is higher risk. Their manufacturing tolerances on bottom brackets is pretty poor. It definitely needs normally a bike mechanic to tinker with it. They do some crazy stuff like the asymmetric rear triangles, and currently had a Cannondale topstone in recently, which is somehow they're taking the BB30 bottom bracket and made it 82 millimeters wide, which, if you know what that means, it makes things really complicated, and you think, why? So that's Cannondale. So I think you take a bit more risk, but I think you get a bit more reward, because you generally end up with a very good handling bike. The Supercross is fantastic. Time Bikes is here. The problem with Time Bikes is they're not actually that readily available, and they don't have superb customer services, but if you can get one, they're brilliant. The few that I've ever worked on have been sort of a mythical creature. They're pretty cool, but trying to get spares for them is a bit awkward. Trying to get in contact with anybody, dealers are few and far between. They seem to change global distributors a lot. It's just an awkward brand to interact with, which is a bit of a shame, which kind of scores them down a little bit. Up here then I put Pinerelli, and the reason is I think they are massively overpriced. They do devalue quite quickly. They are very desirable, which means that they get nicked and stolen quite a bit. But they do ride fantastically, and riding something like the Dogma is it's a beautiful thing, as you can imagine. So I think it deserves to be up here. It's on this line. It's definitely not without its risks of ownership. Okay, so there we go. There's my thoughts on what I think fit that line. And then I want to talk about some of the punchers, brands which I think are punching a bit above their weight and deserve to be just a little bit above the line. Down here we've got Trek. I think there's some cool stuff coming out from Trek. Again, it's pretty low risk, a little bit slightly higher reward. I like some of their stuff in that sort of, it's a safe bet, but there's just some little gems in their range which are pretty cool. Ridley bikes, nothing really massively exciting by Ridley, but the build quality of them has always been better than the price suggests. It's one of those brands where they don't really have much to shout about apart from the build quality, and that's probably all you want really. And I think for the price you get some nice build quality. Bianchi I think sits here. It's a hard one because it is such a massive range. We don't see the big range here in the UK. We tend to see just the sort of the top end of the range here in the UK, but on a global scale the Bianchi range is absolutely gigantic. So you can't really sort of blanket with it, but I think the bikes here, I think they're just punching above their weight. I really do. Look, I've put here again punching above their weight opposed to time, mostly down to the after sales dealer network, being able to get spare parts for them. They're still not perfect, but I think they're still significantly better than time. And then up here I've put Pivot, who I think are doing incredible things at the moment. The pivots that we work on, actually my girlfriend owns one, and every time you take one apart to do a pivot bearing job on it, you can't help but just appreciate the finishing details on it. The DW link on them works really well. The geometry is fantastic. I just think it deserves. I think it just deserves to be up there. It is high risk. They are crazy expensive. But I do think you get a bit more than what you pay for there. So yeah. Okay, so I think what I've tried to do here is give them a score, put them on the grid, and then do a multiplication and give the bike brands a score like this. So hopefully you can do something a bit like this and put it down in the comments and say, I own this and I'm giving it this much risk or this much reward. And yeah, I'm going to start building up a bit of a picture of what all you guys say. Try and collect that. Maybe we'll do a follow-up video and see what we learn. So yeah, let's see how your bike stacks up. Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? It's we really are here just to learn, discuss. This is just to get us started, throw something down on the table to be talked about. And yeah, let's just see where it goes. If we get lots and lots of comments, I think I'll do a follow-up video that's, picks out the gems and see if we can find those brands which we all, and I say we all, think are punching a little bit above their weight. Hope you enjoyed this video. A couple of words from me. Thank you to all of you that subscribed to the new Strength to Speed channel. Our video yesterday went up there. It was about how we use muscle oxygen in a VO2 session and comparing the graphs from two different athletes. If the fitness side of stuff is interesting to you, there's some unashamedly techie fitness stuff on the Strength to Speed channel. I'll put a link down below. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next video in make as much cycling content as we can while the World Cup is on to keep the rest of us super sane. All right, thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.